Welcome to the Property Guide on ET Now. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is our big budget special. The Union Budget was announced this week and we're going to take a look at how those announcements affect the real estate sector and specifically how will it impact your ability to buy a home. We have a wonderful panel of guests in the studio with me who are going to answer all of our questions. But before I do a quick round of introductions, remember our email ID is at the bottom of your screen. You can send in any question that you have about buying a home or investing in real estate, or you can tweet in your questions. You can reach me on Twitter as well. Let me do a round of introductions. Pranay Vakil is the chairman of Paron Consultants. Thank you for coming in. Om Ahuja, CEO of Residential at JLL. And in our Delhi studio, Jayashree Kurup, head of content and research at magicbricks.com. Now, we've had a day, thankfully, to go through everything. And a lot of times we discover fine print in the document of the budget. It's not so much the speech that we listen to. Pranay, I want to start with you. After you've read through, and I can see you've done a lot of reading, what is the most interesting thing you've discovered from this budget document?
I think talking of fine print, I would say the one on capital gains reinvestment under Section 45 is something which came to my knowledge, not through the speech which I heard, but only when I saw the documents.
Explain that to us.
Let me tell you. You have a house. You sell that house and you buy another house. So in selling the house, you make some capital gains. If you reinvest that capital gains under Section 54E into another buying of another house, it is completely tax exempt, provided your existing house was held by you for at least 3 years.
Right.
Right?
That's how it stands right now.
Yeah. That was the law. That was the law. Now, what has happened a few years back was that people having multiple houses made multiple capital gains tax and invested into multiple houses. So, the interpretation was that even buying of a second house, you got the protection and you did not pay the capital gains tax. I think that has been removed.
There was one thing that people read in is fairly positive for home buyers, and that was a higher deduction on our home loan interest, which used to be 1.5 a year, it's now 2 a year. Do you see that as a positive? It should have been even higher than that, but we'll take what we can get right now.
Well, I would say it was expecting too much from this government. It is just 6 weeks they've been in power, and whatever they've done, in my scheme of things, I think they've done a lot in terms of having 5-6 initiatives specifically for housing. It's really good. Whether the quantifying of that, what they've done is very important. Yes, at this stage, looks to be very small, but it will revive demand. It will create a positivity. That's very important.
All right. So those are the two big moves really in the taxation. Jayashree, come in here. Let's talk about REITs, something that the industry has been waiting for a very long time. It was, in fact, one of the biggest announcements that came out in this budget. Now, tell us what it means when the finance minister says REITs gets a tax pass-through. Tell us what it means for us who are looking forward to perhaps investing in REITs.
Again, Faye, I would say it's fairly early to say it needs to play out, it needs to be spelled out. But net, what it means is that if you want to invest in the property markets and benefit from the boom in the property markets without having that piece of real estate at the end of it, where you don't know which is the project that is good, and you want to still be able to invest and gain from the property markets, REITs is a very good way of the small investor getting into the market. That is very simplistic, but actually this is what it means. You can enter and be part of the property market and benefit from the boom and let the experts do the buying and selling so that you benefit. It's very like investing in stocks. This has not happened, and this is something that the investor can look forward to. For the developer, it means that there is actually you're making a lot more money available to the market, and the problem with the property markets was that there was no long-term capital, not sufficient long-term capital. This makes the long-term capital available, and this is a positive move both for the consumer as well as the developer.
All right, so this is interesting. Now, for those of us who are worried about the fact that you want to take advantage of the booming property market, but 3 crore rupees or 1 crore rupees, which is what it costs in most of our cities. You just can't afford. The entry barrier is too high. REITs will allow you to get in at a smaller level. So it's a mutual fund that invests in property. Pranay, the interesting thing about REITs, which a lot of people have not understood, is that it's not a project that will invest from ground up. So you're not exactly buying into a building that's under construction. the REITs will buy a finished building, rent it out, and you'll make a dividend from the rental return, if I'm not mistaken. Is that how it works?
That's the way it works.
Does that mean that we won't exactly get the boom that Jayashree was referring to?
You share that boom. Now let me explain to you how the whole thing will work. First of all, REIT has been on the cards. SEBI has also dealt with it, announced certain guidelines and all that, but it has not succeeded. The reason why it has not succeeded was that the income that the REIT earned, it paid tax before it could be distributed to the investors. This budget clarifies that the income of the REIT will not be taxed in the hands of the REIT, but only for the investor. What is technically called a tax pass-through status. All equity mutual funds which are in the market enjoy this status of tax pass-through, which for the first time has been extended to a real estate REIT, which is like a mutual fund. Having said that, what would the REIT do? The REIT will have sub-limits, that they will not invest more than 5 or 10% in a particular geographical area. They'll not invest more than 5-10% into a particular venture, particular project. So the whole thing gets distributed. The risk gets distributed. Now, how will they invest? They'll invest into ready or close to ready products. Something which can be let out easily. So the earnings will come in two ways. One is the rental which will come to the REIT will be distributed from year to year, and they are required to distribute 90% of what they earn year after year. So every year there will be a rental distribution, right? And at the end when you sell the product, and there is a capital gains, that also will be distributed.
You said 90%, what happens to the remaining 10%?
Can be carried forward to the next year. I mean, you can't keep 90% in your reserves and distribute only 10%, which some other companies do, right? But here, 90% distribution is a compulsion.
Okay. Tell me this. You didn't seem very excited when we spoke about REITs. Tell us why. Is there something there that disappoints you? Is there a catch that we're not seeing right now?
Well, at this point of time, we're looking for clarity, further clarity on REITs. What happens is, in terms of when you look at the pass-through mechanism, what Mr. Vakil explained, it's a great step. But there are still more clarity aspect which is still expected from the government. One is basically DDT, dividend distribution tax. So straight away there is a 17% tax. When moment this 90% of the income has to be distributed to an investor, there is a subjectivity of DDT. There's a second angle to it is moment you invest into multiple projects, the SPV, the special purpose vehicle may not pay the tax on the income tax perspective, but the rental income what they're earning, that is subject to income from house property. So there is again a tax that 70% of the rental income is taxed at a 33% stake. So technically it works out to be 36% tax still there even after having this pass-through clarity.
But Jayashree, tell me this, if you've had a closer look at it, how long do you think it's going to be before REITs is easily available? I know it's available in some form right now, but easily available to all retail investors, like a mutual fund, for example. How long is that going to take?
It actually depends on how soon the government clarifies. And once it clarifies, the consumer is going to take a little time to understand and start investing. So it's not like you open REITs today and tomorrow all retail investors are going to invest into it. While making it available, there has to be a lot of education in REITs and how it functions, because it's a new concept in the market and the consumer is definitely going to take time. And before that, we need clarification on the policy itself. So if the policy clarification comes fast and it becomes a reality, I would still say that the consumer will take some time, a few months, if not a year, to be comfortable with it. And we also need to know what the regulation mechanism is, because the consumer does not trust the real estate market. So even if you come up with a new policy and a new investment option, the consumer is going to take it with a bucket of salt till you actually explain that it is risk-free.
You ask anybody who's sitting at home right now, why would you want to buy a house? It's not because I'll get great rent out of it. It's because in 10 years' time, I hope that it's going to shoot through the roof and I'll make a lot of money. Then, in that case, Anybody looking to invest in REITs should have a 10-year time horizon? What do you think?
Well, I would say we're a little different than what happens in the world, because if you look at a Singapore market where your cost of borrowing is a little lesser than what you make basically in terms of rental yield from a residential asset. So it typically makes sense to basically leverage yourself and buy assets. Whether it is residential, yes, it makes sense. But in India, REITs are more focused towards commercial assets, where you have office property, you have retail property, where you make a rental yield which is anywhere ranging between 8 to 12%. So when you're looking at this structure, with this pass-through structure or pass-through clarity or a little more clarity on the subject, will actually create big market for HNIs who today don't want to go and buy commercial assets because there's no clarity in terms of whether I can hold a 5,000 square feet or 1,000 square feet office. If I go and get a participation in a building which is housing one of the best IT companies in Bangalore, which can give me a small percentage into it, with a 10-year view, I will certainly love to participate because I'm getting something which is 8 to 12% rental yield.
On that note, what is your view on commercial rentals going forward now?
Well, this doesn't change. REIT is something which will get participation from HNI perspective. Now, industry doesn't seize major change. Industry would have got much more liquidity. Industry would have got much more participation. What is missing out today is basically HNI investors still not having access to that market.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, but you should also remember, while we expected the finance minister to say something about REITs, he also said infrastructure trusts, which is interesting. We're going to come back, we're going to talk about infrastructure and a couple of the other big moves that we heard in the budget. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're watching the Property Guide in ET Now. Thank you so much for staying with us. We're talking about the big budget announcement that we heard on Thursday, and we're trying to figure out how it will affect your ability to buy a home. Remember, we talked about REITs, we talked about the tax differences. We know that there's also been an allowance there for FDI in real estate, but I really want to talk about low-cost housing. We had a very aggressive push for low-cost housing in the budget. Lots of large numbers were talked about. A sum of 4,000 crore rupees was earmarked for the National Housing Bank to increase flow for cheaper credit for young borrowers. That was interesting. So I want to understand from all of our guests, and I want Jayashree to come in here. Have you had a chance to take a closer look at the document, Jayashree? What did the finance minister mean when he said young borrowers? Is there a specification that he's looking at? How will this money be dispersed?
Faye, till now we've always talked about dispersing money to the low-income groups. The assumption being that when you talk affordable housing, you were only talking about EWS housing. 95% was EWS housing. That was the premise on which we used to talk about affordable housing. I think by talking about young borrowers, the government has for the first time acknowledged that the affordable housing problem does not exist only in the EWS category or the LIG category. It exists with people who are young in the workforce, who are buying probably their first house and can afford to purchase houses, allocate only a portion of their income to housing. And this is something that has been a big demand from consumers as well as the industry, saying that affordable housing should be made available to young borrowers who have the wherewithal to enter the formal system, but we do not have stock to invest it in. And this probably is what the young buyers announcement means.
But Pranay, obviously we're going to have to wait for the fine print, because I'm curious to know what the finance minister defines as young. Is it someone in their 20s, in their 30s, in their 40s? You never know. It's all relative when you're looking at it from North Block. But tell me, right now we're looking at a stage where inflation is possibly not going to come down for the next few months at least, which means the RBI governor has told us very clearly that he has no elbow room to bring rates down. Do you believe we currently run a system where the rates are just far too high to borrow home loans?
I would say that these are one of the highest that I know of in any developing or developed countries for housing. Any other country, you go to Europe, you can borrow it between 2 and 3%. But then the inflation is also limited. In this country, you're borrowing at 10.5% for housing loan, which is high. Fortunately, the appreciation that you're getting on the property kind of matches or exceeds the 10.5%, and therefore you're able to afford to do it, so to say. But yes, I think the rates are very, very high. I can only tell you one thing, that there was a time about 3.5, 4 years back when the rates had dropped to about 7.5, 8%. that was the time when we have seen the best volume possible, number of transactions in the market. More people were kind of borrowing, taking loans and stuff like that.
Jayashree, 100 smart cities found a mention in the budget, but did we hear enough about it? Because we still don't know where these smart cities are going to be, what the plan is. What do you have so far?
I think some direction has been given where he talked about the industrial corridors, the Mumbai-Bangalore, the Mumbai-Chennai, the Bangalore-Chennai. He's talked about Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. He's talked about the Delhi-Mumbai industrial corridor. It's nothing new, but the fact that it's reiterating that these are the places where planned townships are going to come. They also mentioned that it is going to be the satellite areas of existing cities, and clearly it's not going to be 100 new cities. It's going to be cities smartened up to meet the challenge. So smaller cities are going to grow into larger cities. They've mentioned a population benchmark. So I think, and also I think the most important thing is that they have actually spelled out what are the basic features that they would like to see in smart cities. One is the transport connectivity, whether it's metro, light rail, intercity connectivity, that kind of thing. The second one is that water and potable water and sewerage is one of the elements. The other one is wastewater recycling so that cities can become self-sufficient. A third is telecom connectivity. You see, these are small things, but the fact that they chose to mention this shows the direction in which they are looking at smart cities. I don't think we are, it's way too early to say that they have not yet announced the 100 smart cities, but I think they've more or less declared their intent to make the city smart and how they are going to go about it. I think it's a long process. It's not that tomorrow there will be 100 smart cities declared, but I think they are preparing their list. That's what we hear from the ministry.
Would you say someone who's looking to maybe buy property as an investment continues to look at these big urban centers of Mumbai, the NCR, Bangalore, or should they wait a little bit and see how all these new things play out?
Well, I would say already on the ground, there is a positivity, there is a sentiment improvement, there are a number of walk-ins have improved, customers are looking at newer options. What has really happened in last 45, 60 days has been developers are slowly withdrawing the special offers they had in terms of 80-20, in terms of special plans or something which they're rolling out as gifts. Slowly we are seeing this being withdrawal, specifically in cities like if you've seen in Bombay recently, we've seen few developers actually those hoardings which are actually on down, they're all going now. So it's, I think people who are looking for yet to have a better deal, I doubt that will be there. So I guess it will be next, it's a matter of sentiment getting improved. I think maybe in festive season starts, developers will start withdrawing. You need to act fast in terms of if you want to avail those offers.
All right, we have to take a very quick break, but it's clear that all of our guests agree prices are not coming down. That opportunity that we saw in the beginning of this year, maybe late last year, has in fact passed us by. So if you are buying a home, now is the time. We'll take a very quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about these corridors in Chennai, Bangalore. A large portion of it was in Andhra Pradesh. What does it mean for the cities that are already there? Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're watching the Property Guide on ET Now. Thank you for staying with us. We're discussing the big union budget announcement that we heard on Thursday this week. What does it mean for you? Let's talk about infrastructure. The budget allocated a total of 37,880 crore rupees towards national highways for the construction of highways, 3,000 crore rupees to boost road connectivity in the northeast. Also targeted about 8,500 kilometers of national highway. There was mention of airports, a metro for Ahmedabad and for Lucknow. We know earlier in the rail budget there was a mention of a bullet train between Ahmedabad and Mumbai. 100 crore rupees for those two metros, and of course industrial corridors. A large portion of that was between Chennai and Bangalore and Andhra Pradesh. Now, given all of these ideas, granted these are infrastructure projects that are going to take many years before we actually see them come to light, do you think any of these cities will benefit particularly, Pranay?
Hugely, hugely. Because let me tell you that we've been seeing that wherever the infrastructure improves, you'll find that it gives a boost to the real estate. I mean, you take Bombay-Pune highway, something which was completely barren. You suddenly find a lot of offices, lot of educational institute, residences coming up on both sides of the road. So, and this is not confined to Bombay-Pune. I mean, you take any highway, any connectivity.
I'm going to put you in the spot here like I do to all of my guests. I'll make you pick a city. Do you think Ahmedabad is the one, given where the rates are in Ahmedabad right now, or do you think it's going to be Vizag because of all of the push that that area is receiving? Can you pick an idea for us that you think is going to do really well?
Can I pick Mangalore instead?
Please. Is it going to benefit from the allocation to ports, or do you just believe that Mangalore is going to do well?
I think, as you know, he's also talked about the new ports and all. But the propensity to consume is the most important thing for some of these cities. And where people are more willing to commit money, you'll find that those are the places which appreciate faster, where the demand is and the demand gets picked up.
Oh, do you have an idea?
Well, I would say, very rightly said, one should be very careful in choosing. Let's say I was in Andhra, specifically when I went and saw projects in Vijayawada and Visakhapatnam. You will be surprised they're costing at the price of what Hyderabad is today. Hyderabad is a reality. You can see it. People are working. You know, in Miapur, which is 7-8 kilometers from high-tech city, you have projects at 3,000 to 4,000 rupees per square feet. In Visakhapatnam, pricing is 4,000 to 4,500 rupees per square feet. Vijayawada is quoting anywhere between 3,000 to 4,000 rupees per square feet.
And in terms of economic activity, there's a huge difference.
Why will somebody go and buy into Vijayawada, Visakhapatnam today when we don't have clarity in terms of what is going to be the appreciation? And specifically when you see economic boom, which is yet to be in, it's a 5 to 10 year program. Yes, going early and investing, I understand. But you should go and catch that early is if you're getting into 2,000 rupees per square feet or you're getting 2,500 rupees per square feet, not at same price what you're getting in Hyderabad today.
All right. Jayashree, we've talked about this in the past. We've talked about Hyderabad, Chennai, Bangalore. When you're looking at it right now and you're studying the budget, where do you think which city is going to receive the most push from this? Which real estate market, residential market is going to benefit the most?
I think the real estate residential markets will largely be in the cities that are livable, that are that have economic drivers. So I would still put my bets on Hyderabad, Chennai, Bangalore. These are the cities where there is an economic driver, there is plenty of housing stock, and there is more housing stock, and there is a certain amount of trust from the consumer that this is where I can stay and buy and live in. The new markets, I would tend to agree with both Pranay and that the new markets are large, highly speculative, and increasingly what's happening is the minute an announcement is made, the leverage value is taken out almost immediately. I think this is going to, because we've announced so many new cities, I think this leverage value being taken out immediately is going to kind of peter out in a while. And I don't think the small investor should enter right now. Allow the infrastructure to come up, allow the policies to play out, and stick to the straight and narrow, like I said earlier.
All right, so the advice remains the same. Remember, if you have any questions about what you heard of the budget or what you heard on the show today, feel free to write to us. Our email ID is at the bottom of your screen. You can also reach me on Twitter. Om and Pranay, thank you so much for coming in. Jayashree, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for watching.